see so much in the world today. Like, we have 1,000,001 distractions. I mean, a podcast technically could be a distraction, which is ironic too, but it can also be very inspiring. And so, a lot of what I was doing back then without having the actual language for it was giving people permission to actually be themselves. And by doing that, I was giving myself permission to be myself, which in turn helped that was the attraction piece. Other men would then come to me and they start training with me, doing my programs, following an Instagram page, all of those things. And I didn't realize that at the time, but it was because I was actually being myself, which gave other men permission to be themselves.
Jordan, we've been talking about doing this podcast for years now.
A lot of years,
because I reached out to you first initially because I'm sitting watching like outdoor channel type stuff, and it's a lot of guys with GoPros and a lot of awkward conversations sitting in tree stands, and then all of a sudden there's this really high quality production and amazing cinematography, I think, and it's called Run to Gun, and this is your whole world. It's been your whole world, but it's like we got to talk to Jordan Miller.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to learn more about Run to Gun, what you have going on, and what it's been like since we started talking. I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, or more. I mean, yeah, because you would have saw some of those episodes from almost a decade ago. That would have been 8-ish years ago, some of those higher quality ones when we were upping our game. And then I think we talked, I bet the first time we talked had to be 2018, 2019, somewhere around in there.
Yeah.
And we connected kind of through coffee, obviously, a little bit. Coffee and hunting. Those are two good connective pieces.
Oh, there's an idea there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how
it's always about what coffee pairs with. And so you can even see that in coffee shops. Like, this is a coffee and food. This is a coffee and plants. This is it's coffee and.
Yeah.
I don't know if coffee and hunting has really been done.
Yeah.
The coffee and guns definitely has.
Absolutely. Maybe a little bit. Yeah. That's funny.
But coffee and hunting. Anyway, just put a little pin in that one. So tell me about Run to Gun.
Absolutely. Well, it's really cool just how we got reconnected here in the last couple of weeks.
Right.
We haven't actually talked a ton, just a couple messages through Instagram or Facebook in the last probably 5 or 6 years. And that's just the world of when you're business owners. It's like there's no intention behind that, but life, the adventure of life in there for all the individuals is wild, and time flies. And I was I say randomly, we both know what that means, but thinking about you and was going to reach out to you and shoot you a text. And I kind of just got busy over the weekend, and you texted me, I think it was a Monday morning or something like that here, like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. And I about fell off my chair laughing because I'm like, of course he texted me. Like, that's how my life kind of is. And so I'm like, of course he texted me because I was going to text him a few days ago, and texted you right back. And I'm like, it's really funny because I was going to text you. You're like, really? And I'm like, no, I'm not lying. Like,
that's
I legit
impossible.
was going to. Yes, that's impossible. I'm like, no, it's not.
Yeah, because I haven't talked to you in over a year.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Maybe 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when you said like, oh, that's impossible, I'm like, no, that's real life. And you're like, I suppose it's time for the podcast. And I'm like, no, 100%. That's exactly what time it is.
And that you're able to get to Bismarck. You haven't been to Bismarck, and
I have no reason to come to Bismarck. It is completely
everybody has reason to come to Bismarck.
That's no offense to anybody in Bismarck, but it's just totally out of the way from me. And so I knew I was going to be hunting back home in South Dakota, which is straight south of Bismarck, about 4.5 hours. And I'm like, this is perfect. I'm just going to line it up. I'm going to hunt for a few days, and I'm going to shoot up and see you.
Yeah.
So it worked out great.
That really worked out because we capped off a season of the first podcast, a group of podcasts, and they were awesome. And then we were both individually growing businesses and figuring all that stuff out. And then really excited to start the next one. And we've been talking about that since, years. Before. Yeah. You were going to be guest number 1 or something like that.
Yeah.
So now it's like, okay, who could we get? Text you? Oh, I was just going to text you. Yeah. That's weird.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It's meant to be.
Yeah. And Run to Gun then was you're doing these big hunts and you're in the gym, like you're training for this stuff, which is a huge part of your life. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I graduated from Dakota Wesleyan in 2011 with a sports exercise degree, and I grew up in western South Dakota, so it was basketball and hunting, and it's the gym and the outdoors. And I grew up seeing my great uncle and my grandpa, some of their hunting adventures and their outdoor just passions, and obviously my dad. But I'd go to my great uncle's house, and I was lucky because he was a second grandpa, so I got two grandpas on the same side, which was amazing. And his cabin was filled with bighorn sheep and elk and mule deer and all the stories, and so I grew up, every time I go to the cabin, I just sit in his living room and just stare at these things and dream.
Like Ace Ventura.
It was the best. Yes, it was amazing. And so I really had big dreams around that, and maybe even doing those things with those guys. And obviously, as an athlete in college, you have no time for that. But my thing was, well, when I'm out of college, I'll be able to do that. By that time, those guys were too old and didn't have the confidence to even think they could do much of those type of adventures anymore. And so I was like, oh, this is kind of weird. Like, why don't you just get in better shape and extend that life? So my mindset was around, okay, like my passion is exercise and sport and fitness. That kind of goes along with hunting, especially the type of hunts I wanted to do, which I haven't even at that time hadn't done any true Western hunting, like outside of South Dakota ever. And so I was really raw to that world, but I knew that's what I wanted to do. It was just one of those things where we just paired it up and we're like, okay, hunting fitness. And hunting fitness was not a thing back then. Like, obviously it is a huge deal now and has been for quite a while, and everybody does it. But then it wasn't. And so we were really one of the first ones, outside of probably like Cam Hanes that was doing that, but I had no idea who that guy was. I remember going to my first, I did some stuff for Burris Optics back then, in probably like 2012 or something. And somebody brought up Cam Hanes to me, and I was like, I don't know. They're like, oh, so you do like what Cam Hanes does? And I'm like, I don't know who. Sure. Like, I don't know. And obviously, I don't do what Cam Hanes does because I've never ran
Jordan
200
Miller
miles. The guy's insane. But it was just fun to be able to be creative and not make something off of what we were seeing somebody else do. Like, I really had the opportunity then to be authentic with myself, and start creating something that was especially new to me. Which I think as we get into the show, we'll probably talk more about that authentic piece. But that's the joy of life itself, is the adventure of being authentic. And, we see so much in the world today of like, we have 1,000,001 distractions. I mean, a podcast technically could be a distraction, which is ironic too. But it can also be very inspiring. And so, a lot of what I was doing back then without having the actual language for it was giving people permission to actually be themselves. And by doing that, I was giving myself permission to be myself, which in turn helped that was the attraction piece. Other men would then come to me and they start training with me, doing my programs, following an Instagram page, all of those things. And I didn't realize that at the time, but it was because I was actually being myself, which gave other men permission to be themselves. So it was just kind of a cool journey. I didn't know that at the time, but as you grow and you see your own journey continuing to unfold, you get to witness the impact of things, and which is very humbling too.
Yeah. I'm internalizing that because, like, do I have permission to do this? This stuff. Yeah. Tell me about the authentic Jordan Miller.
I'm still on that journey, which is crazy, because every time I think I know who I am, there's like another chapter that unfolds. And especially in the last few years of life, it was definitely been in that. Not so much from a physical standpoint, but definitely from a spiritual standpoint, just learning more about myself, more about what even just I believe what God feels about me compared to maybe what I grew up in. And so that's been such a journey in itself. Mm-hmm. And quiet times. I mean, that's kind of one of the reasons why we stopped the show. So we filmed the hunting TV show for 2014 till like around 2020, 2021, somewhere around in there. And so 8 years of producing this show where we, like, and that's how you ran into us, filming how we prepared for the hunt and then actually filming the adventure. So it was a cool concept. But even just like as we started getting out of that, it was like a closing chapter of one. I don't like using the word seasons, but that's really what it was. I mean, you close one season, you start a new season to just learn more about yourself and the grace that has to come with that, because when you're learning about yourself, it's hard. Like being authentic is hard, especially with how much we can listen to podcasts, watch TV shows, scroll social media. You're always viewing or hearing other people's thoughts, opinions about their own life. And so it's easy to attach what you see, especially from a business standpoint of like, okay, this is working for somebody else, it could work for me. Or this is working in somebody else's life, this could work for me. And so we attach somebody else's success to what we should be doing or an action that we should be taking. And that's not always the right path for us. And so, you know, for me, it's really been, and this has literally happened maybe 2 months ago where I was in the garage, and I always have like a mentor in my life of some sort, whether it's a business coach or something. And my wife like laid out the most wisdom I think I've ever had laid out on me by like a free business coach right here in front of me, and I'm not paying her. This is great. And she was just like, you need to get back to like showing how much you love your life again. Because I feel like I was like, you know, a year or two of business where everything's calculated social media posts, calculated, you know, where you're trying to grow a business. Like, you know what that's like. And I was just telling her in the garage, we were working out, and I'm like, I don't even know if I know how to be me anymore. Like, and show that. Like, I know how to be me, but I don't know how to show it anymore. And I think I was showing that in the TV show, especially in those later years when we really became confident in ourselves. And I'm like, man, I don't even know how to show this anymore. And she was just like, man, you got to get back to showing how much you love life. And I was just like, okay, I'm going to turn around and cry right now for a little while, because she just, you know, she had so much wisdom in that moment. Yeah. That was, you know, so important to me. And it's just incredible, man. Like, that journey of things is super humbling.
Do you think that it had anything to do with those, like, I got to schedule this social media post, I've got to, you know, grow this business, and, you know, you structure everything to the point where it in and of itself can't be authentic because it's so planned. Yeah. And is that what kind of just deteriorated this a little bit, where you're like, that's not me?
I think so. I think that's a big part of it. And I think even part of that attachment of, you know, you want everything to produce. So for me, it was even just like, I want every post to be productive. I want that to lead to a deeper relationship with somebody that maybe yields in a monetary value, so my business grows. Mm-hmm. And so then, you know, what's the motive then? My motive is always, well, make more money. And obviously in business, we have to make money or your business stops. And so there's a reality in that, but it's also funny how when that's the motive, you don't grow.
Right. Phil Knight, who founded Nike, had a quote about that. And the paraphrase is basically that, you know, money to an organization is blood to the body. So you need it to survive, but it is not the purpose of your life to just manufacture blood. You want to aspire to do something bigger. But getting to that point, especially in early business where you don't have blood, so I need to get there first. And then that's the driving force, is just say what we need to do, what makes money. We need to pivot to what makes money. And in that process, I think it's a soul sucking, life sucking kind of existence, because everything becomes competition. Competition's great, but competition then is your life.
Yes. And
it's not authentic. It's not who you want to be. That's the crazy, terrible part of entrepreneurship. And if you don't know how to handle that, which, you know, that's quite a journey. So being able to find that, I don't know, that's probably a big gift that your wife gave you.
Absolutely. Oh man. And we've been together since we were 16. So it's like,
you got married at 16.
We got married. Started dating at 16, but we got married young. I mean, we were 21.
Yeah.
And so
and she waited until you were in your mid-30s to give you this advice.
I've been meaning to tell you.
I've been waiting, Amy. Thank you. Oh, so that's the crazy thing about entrepreneurship, though. I mean, it exposes every piece of you, the good and the bad.
Yeah.
And it's literally the coolest journey of self-development. Like when you are purely responsible for yourself and like there's nobody holding you accountable but you. Like you have to face where you're failing. You have to see where you're doing well at, and you have to choose whether you're going to improve or not.
And then adding people to the team.
Yeah.
And you become more vulnerable. I mean, everyone who's been on the team has seen, I hope the best of me, but also not the stuff that I wanted them to see, like where I'm learning.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's tricky.
It's a crazy piece, man.
So that happened. When were you working out with your wife and she tells you this?
This was maybe a month ago.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
maybe
what
2
happened?
months max.
Okay.
It was just that, again, that it was that reigniting piece.
Okay.
It really helped me go back. You know, I think I had a weekend between there and then I went hunting and I was like, I just need to get out in the field. And I haven't hunted a ton the last few years. I mean, I've hunted every year, but not beforehand. I was spending 90 days, 100 days a year in the field, you know, when we were filming the TV show, probably more than that. And I've spent maybe 4 to 8 days in the field, you know, the last several years, which is fine. It's like I have a family. We need to focus on other things. But I like felt that pull again. And I haven't felt that pull like in my spirit to be out in a lot of years. Or maybe I have, and I was just like suppressing that, you know, or finding that new way. So I just went out and I went to my favorite spot. It's just like epic hillside over some badland stuff. The sun comes up. It's amazing. And I just went back to that spot and I've spent so many days, so many mornings on that hill. It's like a 1.5 mile little hike in, easy hike, but it's just like drawn out and you just climb up to this peak. And I was really feeling that just like back to like original intent, back to that origin of adventure. And then it was kind of funny because obviously we started talking and I'm like, I haven't even been to this guy's webpage in a while. And I went and it so connected with me because you're like, I think one of your taglines is like an adventure in every cup. It's something like that.
Another day, another adventure.
Yeah.
The title of this podcast.
Yeah. Yes. And I was just like, man, it's so funny because like that's the pull. And whether an adventure for somebody is being out with their bow, which it is for me a lot of times, or exploring a new area, it might be starting a business for somebody else. You know, it might be just getting a promotion for somebody else, whatever that looks like. But I know, and I can feel it, and I can feel it in the conversations I have with men in my DMs, that it's like there is that like universal pull for men to be on their adventure, but I don't know if they know how to define that in their life.
I 100% agree with you, and I think it's a big missing piece.
Yes.
And what you said earlier is I just don't think men feel the permission to even find that out, because it's got to be what's that quote that most men live lives of quiet desperation. And that's true, but it's like, because you're trying to do what's right and what everyone says you're supposed to do, and you lose that authenticity in that. Doesn't mean everyone needs to be an entrepreneur and go like like and everyone that's a huge act of creativity, which you must be a creative person as well. So I think that's a big missing piece, is the permission to be yourself.
Yeah.
Have you?
I think one of the things that comes to mind when I think of like almost a decade like running something on your own is, I think sharing whatever you're going through is tough, because when you start something, you're supposed to have the plan that will get you to the finish line. And if you are sharing your story when you're at the 20-yard line, people question you. And have you really thought this out? Have you? And then you start to doubt yourself. So why would you share anything when you're not getting permission from somebody to do what you're trying to do? Like, you have to turn punk rock, or at least I had to, and like try to, okay, I'll do it on my own then. And then you're talking about quiet desperation.
Well, that's really funny that you said that, because on that hillside a few weeks ago, my closest friend said to me years ago. He was like, man, he's like, it's so cool how you just jump out of the plane and build your parachute on the way down. And it was something that really meant a lot to me that he said that, 'cause I'm like, that is literally my life. Like, I have, like, whenever I have come up with something to work on, it's just like, okay, cool, let's go. I mean, that's how we started the TV show. I pitched the idea to Midco, and I had like a 60-second promo video that a friend made for me. And it was purely a concept. And they were like, yeah, can you give us this 13 episodes by January 1st? And this was in August. And I was like, yeah, no problem. And I walk out and I'm like, I don't even own a camera. Like, legit did not own a camera. And, but you just figure it out. You build the parachute. And on that hillside a couple weeks ago, I haven't thought about that in forever. And then I was like thinking about the structure of everything. And I'm like, dude, I'm not being my spontaneous self. Like, and that goes into that piece of sharing your story today. When you don't have the plan, when things aren't going well, it's just like, man, the spontaneity is the piece that people actually vibe with. When they see that, they relate to it. And they're like, oh man, like this guy gets what I'm going through.
Yeah.
But when everything's so calculated and your life looks perfect and all those things, like, I actually think people relate so much less to that. And it's just like,
I mean, there's just this other piece that spontaneity is a very important aspect, because that's how you are running and gunning in the early part of a business.
Yeah.
Where the ground, like you're skydiving and the ground's getting closer. This has to work is the answer.
Yeah.
So where does faith come into that?
Yeah, that's good. And I mean, that's literally what faith is, right? Is being able to see something that's not visible yet. You know, it's visible in your mind's eye. And even that sometimes can be pretty blurry. And so it's being able to stick to the plan is not the right word, because obviously there's no plan, but it's, you have a conviction in your heart, you know, that this is the path, this is the way to go. And so you just, okay, let's keep going. Like faith is a trust too, right? I mean, those two words for me kind of go hand in hand. I really, in the last couple of years, have really gotten into like the language of things and what they really mean to us. So like, we use the word faith or we use the word grace and we use these things, but I'm like, I've never actually stopped and like, what does it actually mean in my life?
Ooh,
you know, what does the word actually mean? And so like, I've had a lot of that the last couple of years too, where it's like defining or redefining words in my own life to that actually maybe have even kept me in a box. Or
can you give me an example? Sorry.
Yeah, I can't. I just want to be careful with it. So I think for me, like a big one was like repent is a big one for me. So in traditional aspects, like in America, repent means like to like beg for forgiveness. Like, and so if you mess up, beg for forgiveness so you're right again. And so like the meaning of that in Greek, if you actually look at like the root words, is metanoia, and it actually means more of like changing the way that you think. And if you just keep diving into that deeper, it like we're almost not even in charge of the way we think. Like the goodness of God changes the way we think. And so it's like just going deeper into some of those things where it's like, okay, like I changed my posture from begging to like knowing that my mind is being renewed every day, which is changing the way that I think. And so it's more of the faith piece that you said of like what faith actually means. I can actually have trust that God really cares about me and is not just like judging me every single day for everything that I did wrong.
Right.
And it goes more into that sense of like, man, like I can really trust that he's really caring and that he like really loves me enough to just like continue to like change the way that I think. And so I view him correctly, because I think most of the time maybe I was viewing him wrong, of like if there was always fear around that when I messed up, or guilt that I was hanging on to where I messed up. And it was like, man, that was just morphing the way that I thought about him, the way that I thought about him thinking about me.
It's a huge pack off your shoulders. Just
man, it was just like the relationship then changes.
Yeah.
You know, and then the way I can walk every day actually changes, versus it's like now I can put my sail up and be be spontaneous and be blown by the wind versus walking on eggshells.
Right.
So,
And did you grow up walking on eggshells?
yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I grew up, my parents are amazing. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that I grew up in a very traditional church, and which gave me an amazing foundation. But just as I've continued to grow, it's like, and you grow in grace, right? Where you're like, oh, like what you learned, they only knew what they knew, and they were just giving their best in things. And so it's like, you go in that frustration piece where you try to blame like where you're at, but then like as you continue to grow, it's like, oh, like this is what grace actually is. Like there's another word you redefine, and you're like, okay, like I actually am not mad about the way things are. Like it's just, we only know what we know, and that's the adventure of our journeys, is that continued growth, and then grace just layers on top of that.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's where it gets wild.
That is wild. When were you on this hilltop that you've been on 100 times? When,
I was on it
just
here a couple
recently?
days ago.
Just a couple days ago.
Yeah, but the first time that I was mentioning was a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And is it quite a ways from where you live, or is it like a...
Yeah, so from where I grew up, it's like 40 minutes, but where I live
Okay.
now, it's like 4 hours.
So it's a sojourn. It's like you
Yeah.
got to go back to there. Have you
Yes.
heard of this concept of thin places?
I haven't. Tell me
It's
about
this.
this.
I think it's a Celtic idea that it's the veil between heaven and earth are thin.
Yeah.
Because and it usually is like a mountaintop. I've related it to, it doesn't have to, I mean, because we're in the Dakotas, we don't really have those.
Right. Our hilltops suffice.
Yeah, so he's pretty defensive about a great states.
I love Huff Hills.
Yeah, heaven is so near. But so I've used it in ways that like there are mountaintop experiences,
Yeah.
certainly, and there's places that I'm drawn to that are not in elevation close to heaven, but clearly closer to heaven.
Yeah.
And so it's just those places where it's just maybe even God's everywhere, but maybe it just for you is more accessible, like quickly accessible because spirit's opened up, like that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah. There's like
So-
a deeper dimension there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that hilltop, that was as soon as you said it, I was like, a thin place.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's where your mind went. I love
Yeah.
that. And I mean, right there, like that's the cool part of language is like you have a different language for that than I do, but it means the same thing,
Yeah.
you know, so it's cool.
Yeah. Now, Run to Gun, the TV show.
Yeah.
How many seasons? Like you went, you didn't own a camera.
Yeah.
How did you come up with the first season? Let's
Yeah.
start there.
So yeah, we did 8 total seasons. That first season, I had an awesome friend that was, trying to break into the outdoor space as well at the time, and he wanted to do some video, and he filmed the first season for me. And my brother tagged along on that as well for a lot of those episodes and just helped out. And then it's one of those things, so you know how those early years you make no money, you lose money. Like, and so it was hard for, you know, him to balance work and filming and do that stuff, my original guy. And so it just didn't work out past that. And so then we got to go into, you know, to season 2, and I was like, so Matthew, you want to step up and help your brother out here? And my brother is insanely talented. And at the time, he had never done any filming per se, but he was supernatural with cameras. Like he was in 8th grade, or he was in 6th grade or something like that when my sister was a senior. And my dad has always been into photography. So my dad would always take a lot of our senior pictures with a nice like 35 millimeter, like back then it was legit. And my brother had like a little digital camera, and he was like tagging along on my sister's senior photos, like as a fifth or 6th grader, taking photos with this like cheap little digital camera, and they were turning out like better than some of my dad's photos. And so he was just like super natural eye, which is like, you're just born with that. Like you're, you know, like you have that natural eye with what you do. And so my dad is obviously a visionary too. And so he was already seeing probably what we weren't seeing yet in this. And we still had no money. And he bought us a really nice, like 4K Panasonic, like nice camera for back then. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And so he like fronted that and bought me and Matthew this camera to film season 2, which was probably still haven't paid him back for that. Hopefully he doesn't listen to that. So
Wish I hadn't remembered that.
Yeah,
just now.
I wish I would remember
Hello,
that.
conscience.
Was it like one of those broadcasts, like P2 card?
So this was actually still SD. This was the SD card, but yeah, it was a nice, like, you could hook a boom mic onto it, had the nice camera, so you could like run and gun with it. So it was awesome camera, and we got that camera we were invited to go to like the Hornady Zombie 3-gun shoot in Nebraska. So we're like, oh, it was like in July, and we're like, okay, cool, this will like kick off season 1 or season 2, first episode. And we ordered that camera like 5 days before that. We got it in the mail. Like UPS dropped it off like 30 minutes before we were going to leave to go down there. And I was like, well, Matthew, I'm like, you have a 3-hour drive to learn how to run the camera. And I mean, that's how we just did everything. It was just like, you just figure it out. And I mean, that's like kind of how we got started with it. And then Matthew filmed the remaining of those seasons that we did. And his talent just continued to grow and grow and grow. And like, if it wasn't for him, there's no show.
Sure.
You know, and that was part of like the ending part of our show too, was, you know, we got to that point too where it's just like the show was a branding piece for us. It's not like we were making much money on the show at all. Most of the money that we'd bring in through advertising, it's like you would use that to travel and to buy your hunting tags and to give some money to your cameraman. And so Matthew had an amazing opportunity to work out in Montana, and I was like, dude, you have to take that too. And so I filmed one season where I kind of like self-filmed some stuff with my wife, and we did some things, and I was just like, it's just not the same. You know, I'm like, it's like, it was one of those things, like, it was a true partnership with my brother. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, if he's not with me, I don't want to do it. And I mean, even like hunting now a little bit, like even hunting this weekend, I'm like, I just miss being with my brother on those hunts. Like, it sucks.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like I enjoy my time out, but I'm like, think about the hours I spent hunting with him for 7 years filming a show. Like, I didn't do a hunt without a camera over my shoulder or my brother in my truck, like waking up at 4 a.m., driving across the country. Like, it's a ton of time together. And like, what a great thing for two brothers. You know, it was such a special time. And one of those things, you don't know it at the time. So it's like, you're just living life. But I look back on it now as a 37-year-old, and I'm like, dude, I was in my 20s, like living the dream with my brother with no money, but just doing it. Yeah. Like, it was awesome. And so many cool stories along the way, like, that are just,
that's super
special.
special.
You can't buy those.
Yeah. How do you compile a season? Like, do you come up with like, we're gonna go here and hunt this, and then how does that correlate with the seasons and tags, and if you have a show, do you like, can you talk to South Dakota Game and Fish or whatever, and then and like, hey, can you make sure we get this?
That's what people think, but no, like, that's like, literally people think that is that, like, you get special treatment with tags, and you do not. I mean, you see some of the big name guys, they're just buying over the counter, like, or not over the counter, but private land tags. So a lot of states have private land tags or landowner tags that you can buy. And most of those guys are buying those things. Yeah. What we were doing was literally applying in 12, 13 different states. And so if my thing was like, okay, statistics are easy. If I apply for 110 different tags and I have a 10% less chance of drawing these tags, I can expect to draw 8 to 10 tags this year. Cool. I can put together 13 episodes with that. Mm-hmm. You know, I can, if I need to fill in with some ice fishing or something, I can. Like, it's definitely not the goal that we want to do here, but you know, there's most of these adventures.
Run with like 6 episodes of ice fishing.
Yeah, they must have had a bad year drawing tags. But it was like, you know, most of those adventures are 2-episode worthy, right? Like our New Mexico trips. I mean, we would compile, you know, terabytes of footage to put together 21.5 minutes.
So the editor is, are you editing? Is your brother?
So at that time I edited everything.
So just go through.
And so it's just, you start,
all of that.
Yep. You just start like, and I still have all of that footage. I mean, years of footage where it's just insane.
If you've got probably a pretty solid YouTube channel worth of unreleased content.
Oh, I could release unreleased stuff every day for a year probably, you know, or more. It's insane the amount of footage that never gets seen. Yeah. You know, just to make a short show.
Never gets seen probably by even you, because it's just not possible.
No, you just, in your mind, I already have check marked of like, oh, that's part of the story, that's part of the story, that's part of the story.
Yeah, sure.
And you just go to those days which is the benefit of editing your own show, is I know right where to go.
Do you have a moment on that show where things were like, this was the dream, where you realized this is what I wanted to do? This is the episode. This is the hunt. This is the experience.
The end of season 2, where I don't even think in season 2 we knew who we were yet. Season 3 was that year where I was like, live beyond average.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was that piece of, I'm not going to look like every other hunting show. Because season 1, we just mimicked what everybody else was doing. It was post-production, interviews, it was all that. Season 2 was a little bit of both, more live style shooting, but still a lot of planning, like what I wanted to say and things like that. And I was on a hilltop on the border of Mexico and New Mexico in like January of season 2, and just like sitting in the middle of nowhere, like vastness on top, again, mountain, legit mountain, not a South Dakota hill, in the desert, and chasing mule deer with my bow, quiet, midday. And I was just like, who the hell else is out here? And even on some of my pack outs, we used to film like these little pack out thoughts, like as we were packing out. And that's a painful time, right? When you have 60, 80, 100 pounds on your back, depending on the animal, for miles. Because we hunted legit remote stuff. Mm-hmm. You know, we were hunting public land, and it's painful. And my reframe was always, nobody else is doing this right now. Like, how lucky am I to be suffering the way that I'm suffering? Because it's really not suffering. We just play it up as like everything that's hard has to tie to the word suffer. And it's like,
I've got to do this now.
Yeah. And it's just like, man, this is really cool, actually.
Right.
Like, I'm so lucky. And it's just like reframing. And that's like, in life for me, it's always reframing a current position when I have a bad attitude about something. And it's I mean, that's
didn't you just post checking to see if Uber
Yeah.
has a pack
Yes.
out
Yes.
option yet?
Yeah. So I was packing out a deer on Saturday morning, and it's been a little while since I packed out a deer, and obviously it was a joke. So my dad hiked in to pack out with me, which was super cool. And I'm sitting along this Badland eating a Cliff Bar, and on my phone my dad snaps this kind of candid photo, and so I'm like, we got to put a funny caption on that. So I'm like, seeing if Uber will do a pack out service 3 miles in. But even just like on the hike out with my dad on that, it was just like, man, like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, my shoulders hurt. This is awesome. Like,
yeah. Type 2 fun.
Type 2 fun. Yeah. And so it was like in those moments that made me realize that, man, then I'm like really lucky to do this. And then that grew into season 3 and 4, where like that confidence of being knowing it was okay to be me, even though it was pushing the status quo, even though I knew I did not fit in with the outdoor industry. Like, the people that I'd approach for sponsorships wouldn't even entertain a conversation with me. But then somebody that I'm like, man, their product's a quarter of what we are, would get a sponsorship a month later from that same company. And it's just like, back then that hurt, like, that's painful because I mean, everything is your dream. Mm-hmm. And now I'm so thankful that I didn't get those sponsorships, that I didn't get in with the traditional outdoor company, because I'm like, I would have never had the creative control that I had, that like Midco gave me and Pursuit Channel gave me. Like, even Pursuit Channel was like tiptoeing that, where it's like, I don't like this. But Midco was just like, here's your time slot. Do what you want.
Yeah.
And it was super cool. They trusted me. They saw the value for sure. And, man, if I would have had those sponsorships and would have been tied to, had to do certain things, like, I would have never, you don't know that at the time.
Right.
But I just would have never accomplished what I accomplished then.
And when your brother shifted gears and the TV element left, how did Run to Gun change and evolve and I don't know if pivot is the word, to where you are now, and all the coaching and podcasts and stuff like that you do now? Yeah.
So, kind of a cool story with that. It was totally branding. During this whole time of doing Run to Gun, I was working full time for a gym in Sioux Falls. And so I was still training my clients one-on-one every week, 50, 60 hours.
Right.
And then for a little while I changed to another gym where I was the fitness manager. So I had my clients and I was managing the other trainers and filming the TV show. So it was like so much, and it was just more and more on the plate all the time. But at that age, you're just figuring it out. You're trying to just survive. And at that point, then I got kind of headhunted to work for another company. There was a guy in South Dakota that bought a big franchise, supplement franchise. And so I got headhunted with a couple other guys to go basically help them rebrand. They had like 120 stores, locations across the country. So we went in and helped them with that I did that for 18 months, and I did not enjoy it. I thought I was going to, and I just didn't. And it was not for me. Yeah. But I learned so much about the supplement world, which I already knew a lot about, but it was like it forced me to be an expert on that. So during that time frame, I didn't do one-on-one training, but I still had my online clients from Run to Gun. And that was just like some extra income. And that was in 2019 that I was like, I wasn't going to quit the job that I hated because I was getting paid really well. I would have never quit it. And that company started struggling really bad, and they just couldn't get it figured out either. And so they brought us 4 guys who they headhunted in just a year prior and told us we were out. And exactly, it was like the thumbs up, and I was just like, man, God knew I would have never quit because the money was too easy. And I had, they're like, we're going to pay you for the next 2 weeks. I'm like, oh, cool.
Yeah,
that's nice. Thanks. But it was weird because I had already known that for the year prior. And that's when I started the podcast, was the year prior. And I was using all of that to like, that first year of my podcast was like, it was purely, I was talking to myself. You word it like you're talking to other people, but I'm like, you're just working through you're your own therapist. Yeah. Like you're talking through your own emotions, you're figuring it out. But it was that ramp up of like actually learning how to brand and make a personal brand and do that. And so by the time in mid 2019, I was kind of wanting to open a gym and have it just be like a trainer studio where it was only trainers in there that were, and it kind of like hair salon style where you'd rent your chair kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I talked to a friend about it. He wasn't quite ready. And then he reached back out to me. He was like, hey, I'm ready to go. And then I'm like, I'm not quite ready to do it. And he's like, can I run with this concept? I'm like, absolutely, man. Like, go for it. And we got let go mid-May of 2019. Our last day was May 31st, technically, that we were being paid for. He calls me up almost that same day and goes, hey, man, we're opening up that gym we talked about on June 1st. He's like, you want to come check it out? And I'm like, yeah, I do, man. And so I went and checked it out. This is in Harrisburg, South Dakota. And he's like, if you want any part of this or like whatever, he's like, you're always welcome. And I'm like, well, it's really funny because you're opening June 1st. And I'm like, that's my first day of at the time, unemployment. I mean, self-employment. And so you look at those God alignments where you're like, dude, he had everything planned out mm-hmm. for you,
Meanwhile, you were probably just this wreck.
Dude, you're stressed, right? I got 2 kids, you got a mortgage, like you're trying like, so all my in-person clients at the time, I hadn't hardly talked to in 18 months. So you have that fear of like, I'm about to text all these people who I had close relationships to, but my career pulled me, mm-hmm. This other career that I tried pulled me away, and I'm about to text them and see if they want to train with me again. So there's that ego piece where like, all these people are going to tell me to shove off. And every single one of them was like, yes, can we start next week? I haven't stepped into a gym for a year. They were so grateful for it. And it was just like, okay. And you just jumped on the journey, and we started to Seeker Supplements the exact same month. I just mm-hmm. Sent it. It was either I had that moment where it was like, dude, you can fold right now and go work at Wells Fargo. Nothing against Wells Fargo. Mm-hmm. Just not for me. But it's like, you can fold right now, or you can go get a job like everybody else, or you can go for it.
Yep.
And so I was like, okay, we're going for it. And I had always wanted to, a mentor of mine that helped me start Run to Gun and film that promo video that I told you about. He always joked, was like, dude, this would make such a badass supplement company. And that was always in the back of my mind. And I'm like, why not now? And I used every last dime that I had and sold everything in my basement, everything in my garage. I'm not lying. I was literally at one point that summer driving down the street, like people's rummage sales and stuff, and like throw out stuff on the curb and like picking stuff up and then flipping it on Facebook Marketplace. Like Pokemon cards, like everything. Like I was just flipping stuff. like sold all my LeBron James rookies, like everything. And I just like put it into our first like product of Seeker supplements. And it cost 10 grand to get started, and just like went for it. And we ended like, we folded that company, did really well, and just decided, again, like you reach those passion points. We're like, what do we do?
Yeah.
And we decided like, hey, we've been at this for 6 years. This was awesome. Let's be done. But we ended with like 28 different products
Yeah.
with no funding, like just like bootstrapped this thing and sent it.
Yeah.
And it's like the journey of that's so much fun. And so like, again,
After
like,
it's done.
yeah, exactly. It's stressful. It's amazing, but it's like you learn so much about yourself,
Yeah.
you know, and that's the permission piece for other people. Is like, man, nobody did that for me. Nobody started the TV show for me. You get to view an opportunity that gets in front of you, and you get to choose. Like, do you want to go for it? And I think that's the adventure that God wants us to be on. Is like, I think we always worry so much about like in fear. We get in this fear base. We're like, am I going down the wrong path? And we live in fear versus being like, I personally believe that God's like, dude, either one of those paths is good. Like I'm with you. And like you get off on a little veer path, dude. He's like, I'll bring you back. Like we'll get back on the right, you know, like I don't know if there's a wrong, like how we viewed wrong path in the past. Like we can get into you know, the deep talk of that, but it's like, if God is so good that we say he is, like all like it just, he pulls us back exactly where we need to be, and we can see it hindsight and be like, oh dude, that was wild. Like, yeah, I probably could have avoided that and that with these better decisions, but without those experiences, that's what life is a lived experience. You can grow in head knowledge all you want. It means absolutely nothing until it penetrates your heart, until you've lived it.
But if both paths are good, or you know,
I hear what
are
you're
going to
saying.
be okay, then it's like, well, which one? That's even harder in my mind.
Yeah, sure.
Like, it's
Yeah.
way harder because if one's better, if one's clearly better, then like, oh, I'll put my eggs in that basket then.
Yeah.
But if both are pretty much the same, I'm going to be staring at the menu board for a while, thinking like, I don't know what to order.
That's my mind right there.
Yeah.
Indecisiveness.
Indecisiveness.
Yeah, I can easily be that way. And I've almost, like, it's funny because my friend said, oh, you just jump out of the plane, build your parachute on the way down. It's almost like I started coping with that because I hated how indecisive I was when I was little.
Yeah, but which plane?
Yeah. And so it's like I almost went like the pendulum swings, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you go from one pendulum to this other pendulum where I'm like, I'm just going to go and I'm not going to worry about it. And it's like, okay, well, what's the middle ground in that?
Yeah.
And I think the middle ground in that is faith and trust, where it's just like, you know what? It doesn't matter actually what I choose, because if God's with me anyway, it's going to be good. Like if I choose to quit my job because I want to chase this dream of entrepreneurship for somebody out there, it's like, dude, you're going to be taken care of regardless. Mm-hmm. I know you can't see that right now. But it's like, you're not going to go live on the streets. Like something, it's going to happen. Like if you have the pull in your heart, the desire of your heart, like it was placed there for a reason, clearly.
The desire of your heart was placed there for a reason.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I'm like, okay, if that's there, then lean into that.
Are you able to find any sort of God sense of humor in stuff? If you, with the trust, you know, however, selling your stuff to pay for your next adventure, are you able to see like God's sense of humor in that? I just picture you with like your LeBron James with a 12-year-old lowballing you, and you're like, hey buddy, I know what I have.
Thank goodness for Gary Vee at that time.
But just like having to go through that, like, can you see God being like, hey bud, all you got to do is sell your stuff?
That's really funny. I've actually never thought of it quite like that.
I always picture God laughing at me like, oh, he did it.
Yeah, no, for real. That's really funny. Yeah, that's a good thought. Because that exactly what we talked about earlier with the personal development thing. The whole journey of life is developing us, and so it's like when we can see the bigger whys behind everything happening. One of my friends always says, like, life happens for you, not to you. Like things aren't happening to you, like they're happening for you. And like even that reframe is like, that's exactly what you said, just in a different way of like, you seeing this? You see, like, can you see, are you able to see this? Like, paint this picture, and that's like, and that's the thing, man. Like, the view. I like your view of how you're like. I think God's like laughing. Like, I agree, because I don't think. Like, here's the thing: if we're all like made from Him, like we're all express images of, we're made in His image and likeness. Like, we're all a special piece, like fingerprint of Him. So it's like even like my sense of humor and your sense of humor and like the way you view things are also a way that He does. It's just like, okay, that's cool. So He's actually really funny. He's not just stoic.
Right.
You know, like that's so cool. You know, so
when you're looking through all of your experiences and what you've learned, what do you hope your life is like pointing toward, or what's the message that your life is? Like, do you have one overarching message?
that's tough to put into words.
Sure.
You know, obviously, like my mantra is like live beyond average, but everybody has their own meaning of what that is for their own life. And so I think, as you know, having 3 kids now, you know, having a wife, like those things changes for sure how I view things. And obviously I want to be aspirational to men. But even if I'm not, even if like my business doesn't do what I want to do, like I am learning this like unattachment to my self-worth from how well my business does. And so like this last year, I feel like I've learned so much, or maybe it's probably more like 3 years, but I feel like it's like coming to this peak right now where, you know, we talked about 2 right roads. Well, along both of those right roads, I made a lot of wrong decisions, you know? And so that's the irony of that. It's the paradigm that we get to live in, is I can view it as a right road because it's taking me still to the place I need to be. And I'm experiencing exactly what I'm meant to be experiencing in this moment. But it doesn't mean I didn't make wrong choices along those roads, you know, mess up drastically. But I'm like, man, if I can like, if my kids can have like the deepest permission to never even have to question like who they want to be and what they want to do, like, dude, that's such an epic win. Like, that's what I want to see. Like, and I think that's my like generational consciousness, I think, is huge, where the choices I'm making now with trying to grow my business, like, yes, we talked about money earlier, but it's like, why do I actually want to make the money? And I'm like, man, because like I want to be able to do the stuff that like my dad, by buying a camera for me, I want to without question have the money to do and be along for whatever journey they want to go on. And if that journey is like traditional college, cool. I feel like they're going to be going into other bigger things, different things than that, as far as journeying goes, whether it's traveling or starting their own businesses or we acquire businesses together. Like, I just want them to be able to have that epic freedom to be them, you know? And so I think that's where I'm thinking less about what other guys think of me and more about what my kids get to experience with me later. I mean, now and later. Which again, paradigm.
Yeah.
Such a paradigm.
And you said you're learning how to unattach from the success of your business and the success of your life, or however you put that.
Yeah.
Because that's not natural. That's
It's
a
so
learned
hard.
thing.
It is.
All of your, I mean, yeah, this is your creative child.
Yeah.
And then a lot of your identity is in your brand or whatever.
Exactly.
And so unattaching that, so if that thing falls by the wayside, that you still have what you just said.
Yeah. I'm still me.
Yeah.
And when you have a personal brand, like, and you're making a living off of a personal brand, that is way more challenging than it probably like what we just said it to be. Because you view every month of like how you did. How many sales did you make? Like, are you able to, you know, like all of those things come into play. Performance.
Yeah. If I'm introducing you to someone, it's just as easy to say, this is Jordan. This is Run to Gun. is Run to Gun.
Yeah.
That's Run to Gun.
Nobody knows my name, really. Dude, I literally was at a steakhouse last week, and a guy comes up, and he's like, I know you. And I'm just like, I don't know. He's like, I'm going to get it. And he's like, you from around here? And I'm like, I'm from here. You know, I was just kind of like not giving it away. And then he turns around, like 3 steps, turns around, and he goes, Run to Gun. And I go, nice to meet you, man. I'm Jordan. like nobody knows my name because it's like branded so much into the business name.
Yeah.
Which is really funny. It's also like probably really good for my ego that it's that way.
Yeah. Which sounds like more learning down the road.
Yeah, exactly. Ego's a funny thing.
Ego's a funny thing.
Yeah.
I'm just glad that we got to have this podcast because it was, there's no coincidences, but that was just so wild. Like basically, we did a 1.5, 2-year hiatus for all intents and purposes on the podcast. We're gonna like go again.
Yeah.
And you and I basically texted each other at the same time saying, let's do that podcast.
Yeah. Which is insane. But if like you would have contacted me within those last 2 years, I would have never said yes because of everything that I was going through just in my own growing. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like I had no way to communicate. Like, you know what I mean? Like when you're growing through things, I said that by accident, but that's exactly what it is. Like sometimes you're better off shutting up. But here's the thing. It's like, I think that goes right back to the beginning of the story of men feeling that awakening and that pull in their spirits to adventure. And it's just like, we are all on some of these same journeys specific to your own life, but the journey is the same. And it's like, yeah, you're on it. I'm on it. How many other guys are on it? Probably most.
Right.
Most guys listening probably on it, and they're like, oh yeah. I didn't really have language for that, but now I'm kind of seeing it. And that's why it's important to talk about it. Like
Right.
That's why it's like, dude, like that bro bond is needed. Like,
Yeah.
it's just in whatever fashion.
And sometimes that is in the form of trauma bonding.
It
through
can
adventure.
be through adventure and,
Yeah.
and honestly, coffee. Like one of my best friends now, like we don't live close together, but we get together every 2 weeks for coffee.
Yeah.
And so it's ironic how coffee brings people together.
Yeah.
Like it's the same way as adventure does. It's like, cool, let's have a coffee and talk for an hour.
Yep.
You know, and then that turns into, instead of like trauma bonding, it turns into actually, if you want it to be
Yes.
healthy,
Yeah.
then it turns into dream talking,
Yeah.
masterminding together. Like, and that's how you grow. Like that's how businesses take off. That's how creativity, flourishes, is by that. I call it masterminding, where you're just sitting together. Like we could probably sit at a table like this for 3 hours and come up with a million ideas, right?
Yeah.
And
We got a
that's
lot of
fun.
ideas.
That's the fun of it. Ideas, yes. But that's so much fun when you get together with dudes and do that. And I don't know, that's highlight for me. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
Cool. Have you read Wild at Heart?
I haven't yet, and I know you've been telling me about it for
Well,
years.
I
so I'm
just
gonna
feel
read
like I almost feel like you wrote it, so I just feel like you
That's
should
funny.
you should check that one out. But anyway, thanks, man. It's
Thank
good
you.
talking to you.
Yes.
This is awesome.
Yeah. I want to do this again with you guys and hear more of your stories, though.
Okay,
I feel like I talk too much.
no, that was the point.
I know. It's so funny. We'll close it with this. This is really hard to sit here and not laugh on the podcast. And I look over and I see Mr. Feeney. There's this photo of Mr. Feeney in the corner.
Oh yeah,
And I'm like, he's staring. I'm like,
Feeney,
George. Yeah, George. And
Mr. Feeney.
I didn't even see it when I sat down and we were talking earlier, and I saw it like mid podcast. And I'm like trying not to bust out.
Yeah.
And my daughter's 11, and she is binge watching Boy Meets World right now. So like the timing of that was really funny for me.
Oh, so am I. Yeah, so I have a lot in common with an 11-year-old daughter.
So good. Oh,
Yeah,
thanks so much, man.
a good teacher.
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Brian Jackson with Mighty Missouri Coffee. With me is Nolan Johnson with Quantum Digital. So if you like how this sounds and looks, thanks to Quantum Digital, if you like the way that this smells and tastes, that's thanks to Mighty Missouri Coffee. Coffee to your door.